Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening to the most electrifying podcast in all of internet radio today. You are listening to the Sports Wire. My name is Vinny Absella, and I'm here with you. Yes, we skipped a night last night. I actually was not working, and actually, I think I fell asleep as soon as my head hit the pillow. But anyways, I am here with you. Today is now Sunday, November 17th, 2019. And got a lot to talk about. First of all, something I did not mention. It's been all over the news, and everybody knows, I'm sure. Back on a WWE program is none other than the best in the world, CM Punk. And now, here's the thing. Like I said, it is a WWE program, but it's a Fox-produced program. He's under contract with Fox for WWE Backstage as a consultant, analyst, what have you. And he's not going to be there every week. He's not, full-time there. And it remains to be seen. That goes the same kind of deal with, Ryan Satin, who's a pretty good wrestling journalist, better than Meltzer and Alvarez, sure as heck. But and even though WWE had to sign off on it, and WWE did have a say-so in it, they had to approve anybody that Fox was going to bring in, ultimately he's under contract with Fox. However, I believe, and the majority of wrestling fans and wrestling journalists and anybody that talks about wrestling or watches wrestling, we believe that this is a door that's open for CM Punk to make a return to the WWE. I think if he does, it won't be, it's not going to be full-time. It's not going to be anything that's a big-time, or it's not going to be anything that's full-time or just short. It's going to be big-time matches. It's going to be WrestleMania, similar to a Brock Lesnar style or Undertaker style of schedule, where he'll come in for maybe 4 Raws in WrestleMania, or maybe the whole road to WrestleMania, starting at the Rumble and going forward into a storyline, whatever. And I feel like that's going to happen. And it may not happen this year. It may happen next year. Who knows? We honestly don't know where it's going. We don't know what's going to happen with CM Punk because, well, when he came into the camera, he said, as soon as you think you have all the answers, I change the culture. Kind of ripping off, but reinventing the Roddy Piper saying. But with that said, it's still, Seth Rollins already challenged him, said, fight me at CM Punk on Twitter. So, people are having fun with it. He may never get back in the ring. Although I will say maybe he does have the wrestling bug back now that things have kind of smoothed over a little bit. People would, we would love to see him work with Triple H. Art imitates life. When who knows? Maybe coming into Survivor Series, since Survivor Series is in Chicago, where CM Punk's hometown is, hint, hint, maybe he comes back and costs NXT the Survivor Series 5-on-5-on-5 match, and he says, what, Triple H, he's gonna, he costs NXT, the match, and allows it to be either Raw or SmackDown that wins, and it could be just kind of set the seeds, because we all know why he left, because he didn't, part of it was having Batista come back and go over in the Royal Rumble instead of a guy like Daniel Bryan, which my thoughts on Daniel Bryan have kind of softened. I never really liked him, he's smaller, and here's the thing, growing up watching the WWE, back in the 80s and 90s, you had guys that were larger than life. Hulk Hogan, the Ultimate Warrior, Macho Man Randy Savage, Andre the Giant, Earthquake, Typhoon. The majority of the top guys were bigger. Diesel. You know what I mean? Then you got into Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart, who weren't that big, but still had big personalities. You know, and I was always Team Shawn Michaels over Bret Hart. I never really liked Bret Hart, and that kind of has grown exponentially since becoming an adult and kind of seeing Bret Hart behind the scenes. I respect what he's done in the ring, but I don't like the guy, especially seeing how self-promotive and self-promoting he is, and how much he doesn't want to take responsibility or accountability for his downfalls. He blames everything on everybody else, But with that said, I respect what he's done in the ring. And it's the same thing with Daniel Bryan. I respect what he's done in the ring, and when he became the People's Champion last year, I actually liked him a lot better. Because, he pointed out that the wrestling fans are fickle, and they really are, as evidenced by a lot of the talk on Twitter lately. However, back to CM Punk, we do want to see CM Punk in the ring and, kind of work off some of that ring rust, kind of erase the bad taste in the mouth, how his first run in the WWE ended, but also his failed attempt at getting into the UFC. He had 2 matches. It's great that he, got to live out his dream and got to, fight in the UFC and so on and so forth. It's great. You always want somebody to live out their dream or take a check mark off their bucket list or whatever the case may be, which is a good thing. But now he's back where he belongs. And so many people are like, oh, she should have went to AEW. He should do this, should do that. Especially when he went to StarCast over Labor Day weekend, and everybody's like, oh, he's got to go to AEW. Well, here's the deal. He went where the guaranteed money was. And he went, he didn't necessarily go sign with WWE yet. He signed with Fox. And, he'll be talking about the WWE. And who knows what he may say. It's similar to the NFL bringing in Michael Strahan to go be on Fox NFL Sunday. You know what I mean? It's where he's not signed to the NFL, but he's signed to Fox. And that's the same thing. So many people discount the fact that even though WWE is, its own entity, its own brand, they could license out the WWE name for their network to put on a show. And that's exactly what they've done, So I think that's a good thing. I did finally get to watch AEW and also NXT from this week. Both were solid shows. I'm happy to see Nyla Rose back on Dynamite. I think, like I said, I think they need to really focus on her. They need to push her as a top heel. They need to push her. The problem is now, yes, they need to push her as a top heel. However, at the same time, they've also got Karma Awesome Kong as a top heel as well. So, with that said, you've got 2 bigger girls, big, strong, muscular. I'm not just talking about weight, because Nyla Rose is built, but, that's partially because she was born a male, so she has more muscle tone than most normal biological females. But the fact is that I do feel like they need to build her up as a monster heel, But, and it's going to get her to the point where she's going to start being cheered. And that'll eventually lead to a feud with Awesome Kong as 2 monster versus monster matches. Because that's what they need to do, quite honestly. They need to focus their top baby face of Britt Baker, DMD, she's a dentist, right? They need to focus on her and get her built to the point where she can challenge Nyla Rose or Awesome Kong. They have to get the title off of Riho, you know, because she is not believable as a champion. She's 98 pounds. Come on now. I'm sure Marco Stunt even weighs more than her. But, you know, they've got to get the title off of her. She should never beat Nyla Rose in the first place. I think that was horrible booking, but the majority of the AEW's women's division is horrible. And a lot of it goes back to the fact that Kenny Omega and Brandy Rhodes are in control of the women's division, or they're the ones that put it together. So you have Brandy Rhodes, who, you know, had a cup of coffee in the WWE, not even as a wrestler, but as more of a ring announcer, manager, you know, and she didn't know much behind the scenes. And then Kenny Omega, who doesn't know anything about wrestling. He knows about performance art, but not wrestling. And he doesn't know any. You know, he's got friends. Riho is a friend of his who he helped train. So, of course, he's going to bring her in, and there's nepotism right there, putting the title on her when it should have been Nyla Rose. You know, sure, you run an angle where, you know, you have David versus Goliath. You get Riho to build up, you know, her, build up her momentum, her wins, and then all of a sudden, after about 2 or 3 months, then maybe, okay, she gets a quick pinfall victory over Nyla Rose in a non-title match, and then title match comes, that she'll end up winning, you know, and that's how they should have booked it, not a tournament final and Riho wins, because that just doesn't make any sense, you know, because you killed your attraction, you killed the character of Nyla Rose, the native beast, you know, with a 98-pound Japanese schoolgirl. But I'm starting to sound too much like Jim Cornette. All right, so I'm going to take a quick break. When I get back, I'll talk about NXT and how I feel like, even though the ratings didn't show it, NXT was a much better show. I will be back. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I am back. Thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading the Sports Wire every day that we do post it. Like I said, I try to do every day. Unfortunately, life gets in the way. I will say, so back to AEW quickly before I move on to NXT. I loved the backstage, fight between the Young Bucks and, I guess they're being called Proud and Powerful, Ortiz and Santana, part of the Inner Circle. That was a really good backstage. The only part I didn't like was the part of when, the guy, one of the Young Bucks got thrown into the bathroom door and Orange Cassidy is standing right there. It's like, really? It's like, all right, back, that would have been a place where the boogeyman would have stood. The boogeyman would have been behind that door, and you would have had, the blinking red lights and, whatever. It's like just seeing a guy standing with his hands in the pockets in the bathroom. Well, that's kind of creepy, actually, but it's still like, really? Like, why would somebody be standing in a bathroom just against the wall with his hands? It doesn't make sense. It just, no. Like, that's why I don't like that. But that's what that is. With that said, that's one of the reasons why I don't like that gimmick of, Orange Cassidy. It's like, just dumb, quite honestly. Okay, so moving on to NXT, it looks like the teams are rounded out, at least for the women's War Games, coming up at TakeOver War Games. On one side, you have Team Rhea Ripley with Mia Yim, with Tegan Nox and Candice LeRae. And then on Team Shayna Baszler, You have, of course, Shayna Baszler, Bianca Belair, Io Shirai, and the NXT UK Women's Champion, Kaylee Ray. So you have both NXT Women's Champions on the same team going into War Games. And that's, it's going to be quite a fight. Team Baszler has the opening advantage as won by the ladder match by Io Shirai this past week, which is where we saw Kaylee Ray interfere and interject herself in Team Baszler. But then then in terms of the men's War Games, I was right by saying Dominik Dijakovic was going to be that fourth member. However, we also heard that Johnny Gargano was hurt, so Finn Balor needed someone to work with, and they took Matt Riddle out of the match, and it's now going to be Finn Balor against Matt Riddle. So right now, Team Ciampa is only Tommaso Ciampa, Keith Lee, and Dominik Dijakovic. Who's going to be the fourth man now? So we need to find out. We need to find out who's going to be that fourth man. I am quite honestly looking at it to be Isaiah Swerve Scott being in that fourth spot for War Games. I mean, I could be mistaken, but that's just a feeling I'm having. I look for them to announce a triple threat match for TakeOver. Pete Dunne, Damian Priestley, and Killian Dane. That's going to be a great triple threat match. As they're all hard-hitting guys, they're all hard hitters, and it's going to be a brutal match. So NXT, in my opinion, NXT was the better show. And it will be, for the foreseeable future. It's just the ratings, like I said, are still with AEW for the fact of, a couple reasons. One, AEW's in their honeymoon period. Two, WWE is not announcing the crossovers when it comes to, like this week Bayley showed up at the end to take out Shayna Baszler. Adding to the fuel to the fire for the Survivor Series triple threat. And as of now, it should be quite common knowledge where you're going to have the crossovers. You're going to have NXT guys pop up on Raw and SmackDown. You're going to have Raw or SmackDown guys pop in on NXT. So hopefully the fans, the people watching, start, to understand that. Because that'll help boost the ratings. But either way, the ratings are closer. And, they're really not winning by much. They're maybe winning by 100,000 people. Last week, it was only 9,000 people that separated them. But, it's usually less than 100,000 people that, the ratings difference. So it's still good either way. And especially in this day and age, you're not going to see the 5.3s or 6.4s that you saw Monday Night Raw doing during the Monday Night Wars. You're not going to see that. Because there was a time where you had Monday Night Raw do 6.4, you had Nitro do 4.8. You're not going to find 10.0, 10 million people or 12 million people or whatever watching wrestling live at all. I watch it on Hulu or on demand or on the WWE Network because everybody's got a different schedule. So, I'm constantly, on a Friday night, I'm usually in bed sleeping until SmackDown is just about over. So I don't watch it live. I watch it on Hulu. Same thing with Raw. On NXT, on a Wednesday, I may not even be home. So that's why I like the idea of NWA Power, watching it on YouTube whenever I can, because I did watch that too. Great show this week. I really like what they're doing with the NWA. There's so much wrestling on that you'd be lucky to watch it all in a week, let alone, being stuck to a schedule and having to go back and forth on a Wednesday night. So, just enjoy it. I'm done arguing on Twitter. See, I'm going through some personal stuff myself, personal issues and stuff, and I want to keep providing quality content to you people out there, and I am going to do that. But with that said, I want to point out that it's getting crazy on Twitter, and all social media in general. Like, I'm not on Facebook, but I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, and Twitter more so than anything right now that I see. And it's like people, it seems like wrestling fans are toxic in the environment to other wrestling fans. And there aren't many wrestling fans out there anymore that to just watch it for entertainment purposes and be it. No, you have people who are AEW fans that are rabid and AEW can do no wrong, but yet WWE does the same thing and they get mad and they curse WWE. I'm getting rid of the network and WWE sucks and whatever. It's like, seriously, sit back and watch. Not everybody is a wrestling journalist, number one. Not everybody's a wrestling journalist. Not everybody, is a booker and has that kind of background to be able to say, oh, well, they should have booked it this way. It's like we get fantasy book, like I do, and everybody else does, but you don't get mad at them. It's like you could predict without, getting crazy about it, and that's all there is to it. Like, and for people that have been watching wrestling since the 80s, like me, you have a pretty healthy knowledge of the industry of the business, but I've never actually booked a show. I've never actually booked a territory. I mean, other than video games and stuff like that. But because of the GM modes in video games and the WWE universe in video games and so everybody seems to think that there could be a booker and a writer and they could put these matches on and this is how it should be done, and it just doesn't work like that. And there's so many people that are like that nowadays. So I put it out on Twitter today that when I watch WWE or General Hospital or any form of TV entertainment, I watch it as an escape. Not to get my stress level even higher. It's like during the week, during the day, the fact that my paycheck comes in one hand and out the other on the same day, it's like, that's stressful. And I'm sure it's stressful for a lot of people out there. A lot of people who are wrestling fans, a lot of people who, whatever. It's like, I don't want to watch something that I enjoy and then go to Twitter and be stressed out even more about it. So I'm not going to argue about it. I'm going to watch Raw, I'm going to watch SmackDown, I'm going to watch AEW, watch NXT, watch NWA. I don't even have time for MLW or Impact or Ring of Honor or New Japan. And I'm going to watch it and I'm going to enjoy it. And I'm just going to enjoy it and not worry about who could do what better and, or be one of those guys on Twitter, the Twitter warriors. Oh, they got to do this, they got to do that. No, I'm not going to argue anymore. I'll say my opinion and that's it. I'm not going to get into name calling or whatever because that's just dumb. Like, get over it. I'm a fan. Okay, I've never said that I was anything else but a fan. And too many people are not fans anymore. But it is what it is. All right, I'm going to take off. Thank you for listening. Again, my name is Vinny Apicella. Find me on Twitter at VApicella SWE. You can follow the Sports Wire on Twitter and Instagram at SportsWire Audio. Email us sportswireaudio@gmail.com. Go to our anchor.fm page at www.sportswireaudio.com. You can also go ahead and support our show from that page, as well as donate to my No Shave November page, no-shave.org/member/Vinny881. Go ahead and donate, help a good cause because it does raise money for cancer. And that's probably pretty much it. You could download the Sports Wire, listen to it on any of your favorite podcast platforms because it's a good show. Obviously, I'm biased, but leave us a 5-star review, leave us a comment, and thank you for listening, thank you for downloading. I'll see you tomorrow right here on the Sports Wire.